Hello, everyone. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to Tips for the Transition, the Career Roadmap podcast. In case you're new to the show, we are starting our fifth season. We're about a month and a half into it. And we have been up till now the number one most watched show on Voice America TV for the last 16 months. And now we're expanding our reach into live streaming on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube simultaneously. And all of the episodes are also on all of your favorite audio channels as well. So I am Maria Tomás-Keegan, your host. I'm a career and life coach for women. And I am on a mission to create resources to help women navigate career and life challenges and to know that they're not alone. Every weekly conversation with an inspiring woman is intended to help women around the world navigate and become more confident and resilient and brave in their careers and in their lives. So if something strikes a chord with you, if some of the information is of interest, check out the show description in the comments or in the description below the video and figure out who you might want to connect with. There'll be multiple ways to connect. Now, over the last few weeks, we have been talking about several approaches to align ourselves with work that fulfills us. And in this changing world and business climate, people are searching for new ways to find more meaning to the work they do. So I believe these are timely and significant topics to cover on this podcast. So today our guest is Jewell Leach. She is a career and business mentor. She's an author and a speaker in the field of personal and career development. She is the international best-selling author of True Gifts, Ignite Your Soul Magic, and Monetize Your Highest Expression of Your Purpose. She supports women to launch their dream of building a legacy through igniting their truest gifts in service to their purpose on this planet while getting paid well to do it. So today we're going to talk about what it means to tap into your unrealized potential and put your zone of genius to work for you. This is going to be fun. I am really looking forward to this and to chat with Jewell. So let me introduce you to her. And here she is. Hello, Jewell.
Hello, how are you, Maria?
I'm really well. Thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. Jewell is coming to us from the western side of Canada today. How's the weather up there?
We have had extraordinary rain and flooding, and it's been a really mild November so far with lots of precipitation. Way above average precipitation.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it feels like feast or famine. I am here in Arizona and we are in a drought. So please send some rain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Let's just jump right in here because we have a lot to talk about. I'd like to start by setting the groundwork for our conversation today, Jewell. Would you tell us your definition of purposeful work and why you think that's so important?
My definition of purposeful work is being engaged in work that feels really, really rich. And when I say rich, I mean that it feels expansive and from within. It fills your heart and soul. It taps into the qualities and the innate gifts that you have, and you know that it's fulfilling and you know that it's meaningful by the way you feel. You just feel inspired every day when you go to work, when you are working, when you're engaging. You feel creative lots of ideas are flowing through. You can literally feel the energy, the chai energy running through. And the reason that's so important is that we spend so much of our lives at work, in work, and bringing our work into the world. And because we spend so much of our lives in that mode, it's really important for our energy to be flowing, because we are creative beings. We're here to create, we're here to evolve. And when we're evolving in our work, and and our work environment is supporting us to grow and to contribute and to connect, then we feel alive. And that sense of aliveness is something that feeds us and impacts our health, impacts our relationships, impacts our way of operating in the world. And so being in a purposeful livelihood, whether that's entrepreneurship or traditional career. And I know the world of work is changing so drastically that even the traditional world of work is looking different. But when we are vibrating that energy of aliveness and joy for what we're doing and purpose in what we're doing, we're feeling that sense of contribution. We're feeling that we're making a difference wherever we are. And that's one of the core human needs that we all have. And so we're fulfilling a need.
You've touched on some great points there. You're right. I have a 30-year corporate career and turned to entrepreneur. And I know what you mean by you spend so much of your the work day hours, right, are at work. And how we think and feel about that really impacts every other area of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's get a little background. What led you to do the work that you do?
What led me here was a lifetime of coming to understand that I have a desire as, and I'm wired to have this desire to really make meaningful contribution and make my life count, and this life count, because it's so short. And two things really, and then I'll kind of fast forward to now, but I grew up in a home where one of my parents despised his work, and I vowed at the age of 15 to never do work I did not love. And I fulfilled that vow. I never did work that I did not love. I changed a lot. I changed careers many, many times until I landed into career coaching. And when I landed into career coaching and was able to then impart what I had learned and support others to really define what was meaningful and purposeful and felt aligned with their gifts so that they could step into a career that they loved, I was feeling that, I was very, very fulfilled. I was feeling very fulfilled. And the other piece that contributed to that was the loss of my sister, where I was face to face with an incredibly long journey of anticipatory grief and then loss. And there were moments near the end where she looked at me and said, "You need to make your life count and really wake up to your fullest potential, because I can't, because I'm dying and you're not." And that was a really life-defining moment for me. And so fast forward, as I navigated and traveled through my own traditional career as a career coach, career counselor, career practitioner, career advisor, there's so many names that, through different funding programs we were given, but that part doesn't matter. I was able to really evolve and shift the way that I was supporting individuals through career change, and journeying through thousands of career exploration journeys with individuals through the course of 20 years led me to understand that whenever someone presented with questions or the desire to change careers or to be in a more meaningful career, or questions about employment, it was never about employment or career. It was always about what was stirring within them that was yearning to find meaning and purpose. And within the construct of working in that environment, I realized that there was so much more that I could offer, and took the leap myself and became an entrepreneur 9 years ago now. And ever since have been diving deeper, because I've had the flexibility and the independence and space to support people at a deeper level in really connecting to that deeper purpose, their why. Because we can work at what we're working at. We can start a business and carry forward with our businesses, or we can be in a career where we're working, but we don't know why. We don't know what it's contributing to. We don't know the impact that we're able to make and that we desire to make. And so really having the opportunity to help people dive deeper has been such a blessing. And the book that I wrote, True Gifts, Ignite Your Soul Magic and Monetize the Highest Expression of Your Purpose, is really a compilation of my life's experiences, my career experiences, my entrepreneurial experiences, my career shifting experiences, and how I've come to understand where these true gifts and this genius actually lives, so that we can start to access it, as opposed to listening to the masses about what the expectation is around what we should be doing. So that's what's led me here. And I love this work, and every single human that I have supported has been just it's been a magical journey, and witnessing, this person just evolve into their highest potential and realize their unrealized potential.
Yeah. You've touched on a lot of things there. And I think it's really important, that unrealized potential, and it is often what gnaws at us, and we don't even know what it is or why. And I love that you and I do very similar work. So we are kindred spirits here, I think.
Yeah.
And we've moved from the corporate world into entrepreneurship about the same time. So there's a parallel going on here as well. Let's talk about the unrealized dreams. So from your perspective, what do you believe prevents people from realizing their dreams? And how do we go about changing that?
That's such a great question. I believe that we come into this world fresh, pristine, pure, and unconditioned. And, we experience dreaming, and we experience magic, our own magic, when we're children. And that slowly we are conditioned and trained and programmed to look at other people's dreams and make other people's dreams more important than our own. And it's not just people, it's, the conditioning that's societal and familial and from the education system and the religious and political system that holds all these beliefs around what we should be doing, who we should be, and how we should be operating in our lives. And so we become very distant to our own childhood magic and our own childhood dreams. And what ends up happening, and I've seen this thousands of times, is that we slowly, and I say we because I've experienced it myself, and it has been part of my journey back home to myself, and in realizing my dream, but that we in the separation of who we are and what we dream of for ourselves, we begin to make different choices that lean us away from our dream, and we begin to believe that our dreams are impossible, and we stop giving ourselves permission to dream. Even we stop giving ourselves permission to even want what we want, and we stop believing in magic, even when I'll never forget the day I found out Santa Claus wasn't real. I was devastated, but it was more than just that. It was the death of a dream, and the death of a dream happens in all of us. And as we grow into adulthood and then midlife, and we become conditioned and programmed by the environments that we're in, including our work environments, we're really we become very, very influenced by the external world, and we forget to look within. And how we change that, in answer to the second part of your question, is that when we come to understand that we have lost connection with our own dreams and our own voice inside, that is playful and magical and believes in the impossible and knows that perceived reality is just perception, there's so much wisdom that lives inside. And so when we can start to really tune in, turn inward, and start listening to that inner voice, the voice of the soul, the heart and soul, it houses, or it what lives inside our hearts is the wisdom of our dreams. And it's what we know is possible for us, but we haven't let ourselves admit it. We haven't let ourselves go there because we're afraid that it might not become a reality. So all of these fears that our idea, if we want to become an entrepreneur, it might not work. Maybe the gift I'm going to share in the world isn't good enough. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe the perceived security that I have with my traditional job is stronger and bigger than what I truly dream of. But when we give ourselves a chance to be quiet with ourselves, get present with ourselves, and really listen in and tune in to the voice, the small, tiny little voice that knows better, that's the beginning of opening the door to our heart space and to the wisdom that lives within all of us, every single one of us. And if you think about every individual who has realized their dream, who has created impact in the world, who's done extraordinary things, they're all people who had to go through this, who had to decide to say no to the external influences and the voices out there and say yes to what was really bubbling up. And you said gnawing inside, and I love that you said that, because it doesn't stop gnawing at you. So to turn within and to look at what gnaws is the first step.
Yeah, the gnawing. I deal with that with my clients as well, and I've been there too. So I love where you're headed. The need to go within, to get quiet, to say stop to the voices that are not your voice. And the other thing you said, and you said it many times, all of the things we think we should be doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just did an episode. The last episode was called "Stop Shoulding on Yourself." So we have been talking about this in this podcast now for a few weeks, and there's reason for that. You started talking about listening to our heart and the wisdom that comes from that, the heart language that comes from that. So talk a little bit more about that. Intrigues me. I'm sure it's intriguing others. Let's talk a little bit more about the heart language.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the the voice of the heart speaks to us when we, become quiet enough to hear. And it speaks to us in different ways. Sometimes it's words, sometimes it's visuals, images, sometimes it's sensations, sometimes it's colors, but the voice of the heart has something to say. And when we can start learning the language of our own heart, we become more and more aware of how we speak to ourselves versus the external voices. We become more and more aware of what is really, really valuable and important and integral to the way that we're wired in our DNA. We have blueprinted wiring for blueprinted, genius gifts that live within us. And it's the language that once we start to develop, we can begin to understand how we operate and how we roll and how we work and how we express and how we speak and how we move in conjunction with our own inner rhythm. And the heart language technology is something that's very, it's not commonly known. And it's available to every single one of us. And if you consider that your heart is the heart is the very first organ that starts to, your heart starts beating before your brain is developed when you're a fetus. And, this heart is an electromagnetic force field that pulses and beats every day, for a lifetime. And this electromagnetic field holds so much information. And when we begin to live the collective dream, what happens is our heart closes. And it's still beating, but the field of magnetism of our heart and the capacity for our heart to speak to us diminishes. So it's not speaking to us, it's beating, but it's not communicating with us the wisdom that we require to really, step outside of the norm. And that electromagnetic field diminishes in conjunction with that. And when we learn to strip away and peel away the layers of fear that is so much, it's fueled by the external. When we begin to quiet the external voices and turn toward this electromagnetic heart field, that this heart that we have, what happens is that our heart begins to open again, and the capacity of the heart begins to open and expand again. And if you think about a magnet, the stronger it is and the bigger it is, the more it has the ability to attract. So that's a lot, I realize, in answer to your question, but there's so many nuances to this. And the heart language really is a vocabulary that we can learn to develop for ourselves. And when I'm sure that many of you have heard about or even practice potentially mantras. And when we speak mantras, they are words of power. And words hold enormous power. They're living, breathing entities. And when we allow our heart to speak its own language, our blueprinted DNA, unique language to speak, the vibration of the words that come from our heart are more powerful than anyone else's. And so we develop our own mantras, our own words of power, our own heart language vocabulary that has the ability to override the neural pathways of thought that we've been conditioned throughout our entire lives.
Wow, you're right. That's a lot.
Yeah.
But all right. So I fully understand. I think about it in a different way, but I fully understand this idea that when we follow the conditioning from the outside, when we hear and listen to all the things that we are told we should be doing, all the things we are told we should be, right? Um, that we close ourselves off to hearing our own voice and the knowing from our own inner wisdom who we really are and who we really are and what we want to be.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I totally agree. I didn't follow all of the technical stuff that you said, but I really
Mm.
appreciate your perspective on this. Um, so let's talk about what steps you would suggest that people can take in order to uncover the title of your book, True Gifts. How do people uncover their true gifts?
So, one of the things that listeners can start with is what I've mentioned before: is develop a practice, a daily practice to get still and quiet,
Mm.
in order to be able to hear the nudges, the ideas, the insights, the ahas that drop in. In my book, I talk about this, all of these things in my book, but I also talk about how the daily practice that we develop sets the tone for our day, and when we carry forward with our day, we have taken time to really hear ourselves. And when you take time to hear yourself, there's a lot that comes through about what you want to perhaps let go of, what you want to perhaps pursue more of, what you feel an inspiration toward creating. And so that daily practice is not, that's the first thing, is to develop a daily practice. And that could look like going for a walk in nature every morning. It could look like sitting in meditation each morning. It could look like sitting and writing each morning, journaling each morning. It could look like breath work. And so there's some really simple ways to just start with some kind of daily personal practice, because we end up being everything to everyone for, especially as women. We've been conditioned that way. And so, stepping away and taking time to create a daily practice is really, really powerful,
Mm.
and can lead to new ideas and new insights and new ways of perceiving what we're doing in our work, and what we're willing to tolerate and what we're unwilling to tolerate anymore, and what are some of the possibilities, and starting to ask questions like, I wonder what else is possible, opens us up to the realm of possibility, as opposed to, oh, I can't,
Right.
I can't, eliminating those from our vocabulary. So that's another way. There's so many ways, but that's another practical way that people can start, is to start paying attention to the words that you use and to
Yeah,
the
and
vocabulary that you use.
yeah, so such great advice, and I think you touched on it, the power of questions
Hmm.
for ourselves. Asking other people questions is a great way to learn, but asking questions of ourselves, right? Of our inner wisdom. Things like, what do I need to know,
Yes.
right? In order for me to be this, or in order for me to do that, or
Yes.
in order for me to have this. I think that the so powerful to ask yourself open questions like that, that just to allow the possibilities. I love that you said, I wonder what else is
Mhm.
possible. That's such an expansive question that it's not limiting. I think that's where we need to get to, right? So that we're not limiting ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're not allowing others to limit us either.
Yes. And when you find yourself arguing for the limitations by saying, yeah, but,
Mm-hmm.
or this is, I don't think, I should, I can't. That's that's keeping yourself in the limitation. And I love what you said, because when we ask ourselves those questions, the key is to ask the question and drop it and let it seed. Because when we ask questions, like, let's say you ask a question, what do I need to know? And then you use your mental capacity, your mental, your brain to try and discover the answer. The answer is not in the mental intelligence, it's in the heart intelligence. And this is where the heart intelligence is so key. And I, even if it sounds like I spoke about the mechanics of it, but to ask the question and to leave it and to be delighted and be surprised,
Yeah.
and trust that the answer will reveal itself in your life experience. And this is another thing I talk about in my book, where the breadcrumbs will be laid, and they're always laid. They're always right in front of us. It's just that we don't see them because we're busy in our own limitation, because
Yeah.
that's how we've been conditioned. So to
Yeah.
ask the open question and then release it, instead of trying to find the answer. Where's the answer? Where's the answer?
Yeah.
Is very, it's more of a push energy and
Yeah.
contracting rather than
Yeah.
this expansion of inviting in the answer.
Yeah. And we're always in such a rush for the answer, right? We need a solution now.
Yes.
And that's not the way it works.
No, it's not.
I have learned that the hard way. It's not the way it works, but dropping those questions, and as you say, just dropping them and leaving them, not trying to answer them, just go about your business. I find that if I ask a question like that, and then I just go do something that, I'll call a mindless activity, right? Just go for a walk, or go take your daily shower, or whatever it is. The answers seem to come at the most unexpected time, in the most unexpected way. It could be all of a sudden someone calls you on the phone and there's your answer. Or you get you're paging through Facebook and you get an idea from an ad you saw. And it just comes in very unexpected ways, and they will delight you when they come. Oh, all right,
Yeah.
Jewell, this is fun. Do you have other tips for us?
Yeah, I feel that what another really, really integral thing to understand and implement is, and it seems and sounds so simple, but again, words are powerful, and the power of this is so beyond what we can imagine. But doing what you love brings you into a state of joy, and joy vibrates at the same frequency as the qualities of your heart. And so when you're doing what you love, you are vibrating at a higher frequency, and you feel expansive and you feel open, and therefore you're an open vessel for the ideas and for the breadcrumbs to drop in, by the way, right? But when you're engaging in something that you love, what that does for you is it opens you up to the possibilities that we're talking about to arrive. And the thing that hooks most people is that they think that doing something that they love, that seems irrelevant to the journey they're on to find the career of their dreams. Well, how is walking in the forest even relevant to me finding the career of my dreams? And they're so busy trying to find the answer that walk in the forest may have and will have, if that's what they love, is walking in nature and being fed by nature, that the answers and ideas, that's where they drop through, and that's where they drop in, like you're saying, whether it's in the shower. So really spending time and having this be a tenet for the daily practice, or the daily quiet time, is do what you love. It might be drawing.
Yeah.
And even though it seems completely unrelated to what you're after, it's completely related, because what it does is it brings you into a vibration of higher frequency. And when you're vibrating that frequency, you are an open invitation for the universe to drop those breadcrumbs for you.
The answers to those questions, right?
In my book. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So do what you love, even if it doesn't seem relevant.
I love what you said there. That when we are feeling joy, it's no surprise to me that is the vibe, that's the vibration of the heart. That is no surprise, right? It shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. And when we are feeling that, when we love what we're doing, when we are, think about, I think about being around, children and grandchildren, how much joy that brings.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when ideas come to me. Answers to questions just come to me. So yeah, that is such a great tip. That is such a great tip.
Well, and it seems too simple for people, because we're conditioned to, and this is something I discovered over and over again in the industry that I was in, helping people do this journeying and career exploring, was, there were assessments and questionnaires and quizzes to tell you what your gifts are, what your greatest character traits are, what your talents are, what your skills are. And relying on these assessments is just a part and parcel of why we feel this is such a struggle, because we're so conditioned to rely on these hard answers and the black and white answers. And what really frustrated me about that was that we would do the assessments, but no one ever taught how to take that deeper and how to discover what was underneath what you were really good at. What's the energetic substance of what you're really good at?
Yeah.
And so that's why it seems so simple to do what you love, where a lot of, especially left brain individuals, will say, well, no, do you have a tool? Do you have an assessment or something? And sure, yeah, I have 1,000 of them, maybe not.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's lots of assessments, but let's not just do the assessments. Let's use the assessments as one tool, but then let's get into the world of really discovering what fuels your heart, and let's bring the heart wisdom into the picture.
Yeah, I am sure that there are a number of people who will watch this and say, I don't know how to do that. It's not easy.
We're not taught.
We're not taught how to do it. And in fact, I think in this society, we are encouraged not to feel the emotion, or not to listen to the heart, to be logical. Yeah. So it's going to be hard for people. And that's one of the reasons why I bring experts like Jewell onto the show, so that you get to know who these people are and you can connect with them. So, Jewell, we could probably talk about this for hours.
I know.
And I hate to call it a day, but I think we need to. And what I want to do now is ask you to share with us the very best way for people to connect with you. And then as I wrap up the show, I'll remind people where else they can go to get more. So,
of course.
What do you say? Where's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
So the best way for people to get in touch with me is I am on social media platforms. I am on Facebook, and I know this will be in the show notes. I am on Instagram. and LinkedIn, of course. And I would love to give you a link, and I believe that you have this link to a free copy of my book,
yes.
True Gifts. It's a digital copy, but it will give you an opportunity, or any listeners who are interested, an opportunity to connect with this work and really, ignite their soul magic and start to open the door for themselves in order to be able to start walking their own path and learn the things that we haven't been taught over time. And that will connect with you, because when you download the book, it will send you over to my email list, and you can receive emails with updates on my programs that I have, and I'm very excited about. There's lots of fun and gold coming in for 2022. And so, yeah, and I believe my website will also be on the show notes as well. And there is a get in touch section on my website that if you want to just email me personally, please go ahead and do that. And I'd be happy.
And we'll drop that in the show notes as well.
Okay.
All right. All right. Jewell, thank you. This has been, you are a delight to talk to. I love your spirit. And it is it's so important that people understand that whatever your method for getting to what lights you up in this world, whatever your method to figuring that out is, figure it out, because it is so worth it. It is so worth knowing what really lights you up. And I want to thank you, Jewell, for sharing your perspective on that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great conversation. I loved it.
Thanks. Good. I'm glad you did. All right, let me just wrap up here. For those of you watching and listening, I really appreciate your being a part of this community. And as I said at the top of the show, I love creating and sharing resources for women. And as a career and life coach, I work with women to help them navigate challenging times with more ease and grace. So if something in this episode resonated with you, if you loved listening to Jewell, and you'd like to get a fresh perspective for yourself, please take a look at the links that are in the show notes or in the comments section, depending on where you're watching, so that you can learn more about Jewell, email addresses for Jewell and me. Our websites are there, our books, our blogs. Any way you want to connect with us is right there for you. And I'd like to invite you also to continue this conversation, if you'd like, in my private Facebook group called the Career Transition Roadmap. So look for that on Facebook and just request to join, and I'd be delighted to invite you in. So I'd like to also invite you to join us every Wednesday here, usually at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Today was a bit different because, you know what, I believe it's our time to thrive. So would you join me on that ride? Till next time, I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan.